And we are live. Welcome to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. Today, we're going to be exploring the profound impact of what your heart set builds into authenticity, core values, passions, and your life's purpose. And along the way, we may even engage in a few exercises designed to help you deepen your self-awareness and shape a personal brand that resonates authentically. We'll see you on the inside.
And we are back. Can
Welcome.
you believe it's November 30th? Like tomorrow is December 1st.
Do not say this.
One month left of 2023. Like I feel like this year has like whoosh.
December's a
30
good month,
days.
though. It's a good month. It's
It is a good month.
Christmas.
It's my birthday month, December.
Mine too. We have too much in common, Tina.
We do.
Oh,
When is your
wow.
birthday?
The 11th.
Okay, December 11th.
Okay.
All right.
So
How
mine's
about
the
you,
30th.
Tina? What is it?
I said mine's the 30th.
Oh, yeah, we did talk
you're at
about
the
that.
end.
We talked about that because
Oh, yeah, 30 days because everybody forgets my birthday because it's right after Christmas, right before New Year's.
Yep.
So I get the drunk text, like, oh my God, Happy New Year! Oh yeah, happy birthday!
Yeah, and by the way,
Give me Christmas birthday presents together.
mm,
Or birthday presents wrapped in Christmas paper.
Oh, that's because
I would take that.
I
I would take that anyways, but I don't like the combo birthday
Yeah,
gift.
Yeah.
That's lame.
I get gypped all the time.
I
told
would
Cody,
frame it.
You know what? He's like, don't worry, baby. I am never going to do that.
I would frame it
Smart.
as like this countdown and all these people meeting at Times Square and around the world. It's really for my birthday, right? Like you actually have the biggest birthday of all.
Right?
My son, Devin, the oldest, his is December 29th. So,
So JJ, my youngest, is the 28th. So it was always
that's
like
crazy. Wow. Yeah.
Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, his birthday, my birthday,
Yeah.
New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. It was just like,
Can I tell you, I'm like really nervous because our due date, and I know I shouldn't say this out loud because babies come whenever
I
they
was
want.
just going to ask, by the way. Yeah.
But our due date is February 22nd, and I was a week late with Izzy. And my midwife is like, you're going to probably be a week late with this baby, which would take us to the leap year of February 29th.
Wow.
but you know what? Then we'll be like 8 years old when he's 25.
Mm.
He'll die when he's 25. Like that's the craziest piece of it when you start to think about birth dates. And I'm like, I really hope not, because that could be like a huge disappointment that you get a birthday
What do
every
you do
4
for
years.
I
You were
know.
born on a leap year. Do you just celebrate it on the 28th?
I guess. I don't know the protocol.
We do.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
If you have a leap year birthday and you're watching, let us know what you do
Yeah, what's the
Absolutely.
protocol?
in the comments.
Absolutely. And by the way, for people that are popping in, we had all kinds of interesting, I'm not going to call it hate mail, but
did?
we definitely had some messages last week on the wonderful Thanksgiving. People were like, where was the show? Where, like people were looking, especially our Canadian friends, right? That don't celebrate the same exact day.
Christina last week says, are we gonna do this show? I know you guys all have Thanksgiving.
I'm like, we don't. Are we?
But I don't. So are we still gonna do this?
So I do want to just really quick give a shout out because something, and it really is in alignment with what we're going to be talking about today with Heartset. But I have a brand new grandson, Colin Robert.
First of all, you don't look like a grandpa.
Thank you. Thank you.
3-year-old?
Thank you. Well, that's what happens when you start dating at 9 years old, and it's just it's a transition that just keeps, rolling and it never stops.
Okay,
Now,
so your youngest. What's her name?
oh gosh, are we going to work back, forward or backwards? Okay, so
Yeah.
my youngest just turned 2.
Okay, so she's already an aunt.
Yes. She is an aunt. Yes, she is.
Crazy.
Yes, she is. And you know what? She's assertive enough already to be a really good aunt. So I think.
Well, coming from you and Kelly.
My boys are uncles too.
But so I have a new grandson, and his name is Colin Robert Wall.
Oh, I love that.
So I do love that, and so just a little shout out and many prayers to Mama throughout the healing process, and my son and the rest of the family as well. So,
but what a great! I think that's what we were just talking before we were in the green room. Like the whole, and I'm not going to say depression thing because it's not depression. Like it's just I don't know what's going on. I'm like in this like empty nest stage that I don't have no kids coming home. I'm not going to have a big house. I'm not going to have a house full of people like at Christmas time and all that kind of stuff, right? So. And I know, Paco's going to be here and all that stuff, and he's awesome, and I love him to death. But my kids are like, none of them are going to have kids, I don't think. I think all of them are going to be anti-children.
Well, my friend's daughter, she thought the same thing, and her daughter, they just had her baby shower a week ago, Tina.
Really?
So
don't lose hope. Never lose hope.
Not that I'll be 49 next month, like in 30 days, literally. And none of them are married. No, well, one of them is married. None of them are like wanting kids or anything like at this point.
Dude, I'm 40 and having a baby. Don't worry about it. You
got
time, man. Like,
awesome.
Totally fine.
I love it. Yeah,
right? And I made my mom a grandma when she was 35 years old. She had me when I was 16. When she was 16, I had my oldest Gage when I was 19. My first year in college, had him. And so I made her a grandma when she was 35 years old.
What would you prefer? Like, really?
I don't want to be. First of all, I'm not a grandma. However, Tony's a grandma. Tony's a grandma.
I understand that piece of like, oh my gosh, like we've had all of these family Christmases. Here's what I would do. I would pop a bottle of Veuve with my honey. I would have, some champagne Christmas morning and have whatever breakfast I want. I would sleep in. I would just like enjoy every minute. But that was our tradition.
On Thanksgiving, we had to celebrate Thanksgiving a couple of days early because he works retail. So we celebrated a couple of days early. We had like the best Thanksgiving. It was just him and I. We cooked what we wanted. We did what we wanted. We ate when at the time we wanted to eat. We didn't have no family drama. And then we started watching Christmas movies and had our little pajamas on and whatever. And we were watching all these like Christmas movies that have all the families coming in and all fighting and everything. And he just looks at me, he goes, we had the best Thanksgiving ever.
See? There's always something. There's a silver lining.
Always a silver lining. Always. So let's get into this, man. I'm super excited about this conversation today.
I think this is going to be.
I am too. As a matter of fact, it happens to be one of the core pillars of things that I teach right around personal branding. And the reason is that, when we think of like figuring out who we are and to whom, we want to serve and to what we want to serve, like what is it we really want to do? Like heart set alignment. And by the way, heart set, it's only been used by, I've been using it for quite a few years. I used that terminology, I think 6 years ago in my first book. And at that time, there was only one person that ever used it that I know of. I mean, the world may be using it, but the only one person.
Robert Wall is the only one who uses heart set.
Yeah, but I really
I hope you trademarked it, Robert.
Boom, there you go. I know. But the point is like heart set is something that cannot be overlooked. I mean, because really, it's one core pillar of your alignment that if your passions, your purpose, and really kind of your core values are all in alignment, it can push you through the things that we talked about earlier, right, Tina? Like when all logic doesn't make sense, when your bank account isn't in alignment with what you thought it should be, the heart set is what really will continue to push you forward and compel you and move you out of bed or whatever rut you happen to be in. So we're going to be talking about that, but before we like dive into everything, one thing I did want to pull up because I love this. It's something that I actually have in one of my books, and it took me a while to kind of reconstruct it a few times. But this is the best definition that I could think of over a period of
I
time.
ask you to tell them what heart set.
Yeah. And I wanted people just to kind of see it, right? So heart set is the compass guiding our personal journey. That statement in itself, I love that, right? Think of it as a compass. Aligning your core values, discovering your passions, defining purpose shapes not only your personal brand, but a meaningful and resilient life. And so that in itself is what we're going to be talking about today. And you know what? Sometimes heart set is designed when something is just perfect. It's blossoming. You know that this is your purpose, your passion. But many times it also becomes kind of defined, and you figure that out through, the trials, the
I
the
think that happens
trauma,
a
the
lot.
pain.
You have to like take that step back from all that stuff, and you're like, okay, let me stop this, and take that step back. I think that's when you find that you can reevaluate all that stuff, your heart,
Yeah,
your purpose,
absolutely.
all that stuff.
So
And
let's kind of dive into it just a little bit here, and we'll do some other little exercises people can do if they're still trying to figure that stuff out. But what's heart set mean to you? Like, just based on that definition, let's kind of go around. What do you think?
Starr.
Who wants to kick us off?
Starr.
You first.
So I was actually going to say that, a lot of coaches, we have a lot of coaches in our space, obviously in our audience, and they are coaching around things that they've overcome, which a lot of it is trauma, things that they've gone through their childhood and their adult life. And obviously they've overcome these things and they resonate with that. So for me, a lot of the work that I do is for women to have some level of financial freedom. So I'm not a financial coach, but it's like just being able to have that weight lifted off their shoulders, never have to worry about like depending on their parents, their man, their spouse, or that job, right? And also, I'm very passionate about serving entrepreneurs because that's something that I really, really enjoy, is like being able to start companies and businesses and move things from the ground up. And so I enjoy motivating women on that journey and that path. So that's something that, I'm very passionate about. But yeah, some of you guys can share your thoughts.
I do like, by the way, that you mentioned, when you talked about, the financial piece, it's not just about saying, like, as a goal, I want to be wealthy, or I want to have enough money. You actually attach this kind of heart set alignment with it, in the fact that money can free you from this. Money can provide this. And so that's usually like time and freedom and independence. You talked about that a lot. In regards to, it allows women to be independent and allows them to actually have their own income and not depend necessarily on a relationship. And that, by the way, is all about that. That's the same exact thing, when in regards to personal branding. Like, it's why I teach it in the corporate world. Like, if this business was to close its doors today, what do you have? Like, what do you have to stand on? Have you properly positioned your own personal brand? And you're doing the same thing, Starr. So I like, kudos. I know each of us do that, but I love what you're doing in that space and really helping women start their own business around something that they're passionate about, right?
I love that. I think, like, full transparency, I think people get into business because they're like, ooh, I could make money doing this, right? Like, that's really why they get in the beginning. And then you realize, like, once the money problem is solved, you realize that there needs to be more of a purpose that comes along with business to carry you through the ups and the downs, to carry you through the times when you're going backwards in entrepreneurship, because it is not a straight climb up, right? And there are times when we hit challenges that we're like, are we actually going to make it through this? Am I meant to do this? Like, how many times have you guys asked yourself, like, am I really, truly, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, am I really meant to be here and do this? Right. Yeah. And so you have to dig deep and find this bigger purpose. And I remember, like, when I've been running businesses. I started my first business when I was 7, my second business when I was 9, right? Like, just like little things that I was building over time. And I remember, as I started to evolve as an adult in business, that it was always something, a pain point for me that I had solved, a challenge that I've overcome. And in the beginning, dude, it was money. Like, when I looked online and I saw a girl making $20,000 a month sitting at the beach, And
Right.
I was getting up at 5 a.m. doing weddings every weekend. I'm like,
Yes.
I am doing something wrong in life. And I was already an entrepreneur. I was
Yeah.
already somebody that had built this salon, this on-site wedding business, this brand for myself. I was known for those things, right? Oh my God, I'm Italian and I just got a new microphone and I just hit it. I'm sorry. My handmail moment, right? So, and so in that process, you know, a lot of the times, and here's what I want to share with you, we evolve as human beings, right? We grow, we evolve, especially entrepreneurs. We're somebody that are committed to growth. And in that process, who we are becomes somebody different. We dig deep, we find a greater need, we find a greater good, we find, you know, something that we truly, the hill that we're willing to die on, right?
Yes.
The thing that we truly want to serve. And a lot of the times, here's what happens with entrepreneurs. They get stuck here because this is working and it's just good enough. And they don't take the time to dig into that heart-centered. And this is what happened through the salon process for me, is that I realized, okay, I could help people feel really confident and look good. But I really, truly wanted to help them become more as a human being. I wanted them to see the value that I saw in them. I wanted them to see the bigger, grand, you know, picture of their lives. And it's so interesting to see how that evolved through network marketing, how that evolved with product sales. And now, you know, like Starr, it's like, I love helping people build business. But the people that I truly love to help are the ones that are out there making an impact and a ripple effect in their community with the impact and the thing that they truly believe on or believe in, right? So that's how I think that we start to evolve through these pieces, and we grow in the process, finding the piece of us that we can truly share with the world and make a bigger difference.
Wow. You know, I'm so glad you talked about ripple effect, because it is, in the beginning, it is more about self. It's like, what is my desire? Why, you know, I want to be an entrepreneur because I see other people that have no ceiling, you know, like the corporate world puts on us. And I have the ability to make X amount of dollars or an infinite amount, depending on my circumstances. But that's like taking, this is how it was explained to me. It's like taking a pebble and throwing it in sand. It's dead. It's one impact.
Yeah.
And that's for self. Throwing it in a pond is that true heart set. You know, it's that ripple effect where now it's not just about self. It starts expanding into these core values. And then your passions and your purpose actually has this, you know, this impact on others, as you stated. So
Exactly.
Like, how many of us knew their purpose when they first started your business? Like, I know this is
I definitely didn't. I
No,
mean, I
I did
started a
not
hair
either.
company.
I'm still
Yeah.
purpose in life.
Yeah, mine was to have more. I mean, to be quite honest, when I
And
first
provide more.
started, it was to have more.
Yeah.
And as you get deeper and deeper into it, you start to realize it actually has very little to do
I
with
had a conversation with somebody who went to the Russell Brunson's
yeah, no, Russell Simmons, comedy show.
watching our elite circle, and these are like 7, 8, 9
Yeah.
figure people. And she was like telling me, she was like, she was telling me that she's like, I don't feel like I have a purpose anymore. Like, I'm making all this money, and what am I doing now?
It's empty.
Like, what's
empty.
next? And she goes, Tina, you wouldn't believe all the things that everybody had the same thing. They're making all this money, but still are like, ugh, what?
It's empty. It doesn't feel like good.
So what if it's not money? What is it that's going to make you fulfill yourself and find that, you know what, this is the purpose that I have?
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
everybody thinks it is money, right? I have this big goal. The New Year's resolutions are going to be starting here pretty soon. Your goal setting. I mean, I'm talking about goal setting and vision boards all next month. But so, you're going to start, oh, I want to make, $20,000 a month, or I want to make, $400,000 next year. So it's going to start. And that's usually one of the top 3 of how much money you want to make or how much money you want to make a month, right? Like, it's usually their top 3, and that and lose weight. So if you already had that, what's next?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can all answer that. What do you think, Starr? Let's throw this one back.
Well, yeah,
Because you did it, right? You did it when you had.
I definitely had that whole pivot thing happen where I was like, I want to start this company. For me, it was like some sort of time freedom, right? To be able to have my kid with me, but I still had to put him in daycare because my business grew exponentially at the time. So I didn't expect that. And then I got into coaching, but there is something that I definitely have a strong passion for that I haven't worked on. And so, Tina, when you talked about that, I was like, light bulb moment. I get to do that this upcoming year, and it's to serve people who have missing children. I'm super interested in that space, and I've never done anything, I said, I don't know if it's going to be start with donations, but I'm going to move into that space.
So let's talk about like building blocks on that. That's the beautiful thing. When we talk about, money, again, it just seems to be a topic that it's inevitable, right? That allows you so many other things. Now, if you chase it, then you're going to continue to kind of be in that box, down that path, and you'll be very limited in what you can do. But if you continue to serve others, then there's this expansion. And with what you just said, Starr, I love that because your career and all the decisions you made, good and bad, leading up to today, has built a base and a foundation that now allows you to step back a little bit, right? That's when you start bringing other leaders up and you start hiring other people to do some of the work in your business. And now you're not as much, hands-on per se. And now you're focusing on this whole other level. It's like, I have the ability to help someone do something that has nothing to do really with your business.
Not at
And
all.
now you have a platform and you have, quite frankly, a vehicle that will allow you to do these things. And that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur, by the way.
Yeah, it's creating that long-term vision and the wealth that comes behind it. Because once you solve the money problem, you get to operate in this heart-centered mode and this service mode. And I think all of us are in a career that we would do our job for free, right? We would show up and we would help people and we would do anything that we could to move the needle forward for them because we care more about their results than we care about our paycheck. Now, yes, we charge people. Yes, we charge people because that holds people accountable, right?
Yeah.
And the years of service that we put out there, the years of education and mentorship, there's a dollar that comes behind that. And we've become very valuable to the marketplace. That value is an energy exchange and we exchange it for money. That's what it comes down to. But we get to work in our zone of genius, in our wheelhouse every single day. And there's not a day that goes by that we aren't excited to get on and have a conversation with somebody. Like Tina, you love talking to people about sharing their story in a book. Like you really feel called to say, hey, I see a bigger picture for you. I want to pull you into this because I know the impact that you'll make with it, right? Starr, you've been able to do the same thing. And Robert, like with how you teach people how to brand, right? It's truly acting in service and realizing that as you grow and evolve through that service, that heart-centered alignment, that everything evolves. And so you do have the opportunity to start a nonprofit. You do have, it's funny, Ryan was talking the other day. He's like, if we had all the money in the world, or if I didn't have to worry about you guys, I would be out there, working to help, people catch child predators, and I'd be out there like in the world of like human trafficking, right? Like
interest.
yeah. And I was like, well, how about like we care about us first and then we can worry about the other people out there. Like, right. But like, and I honor that with him. I honor that's what his heart feels pulled to do. Yeah. And as, time evolves and people often, I won't say everybody, but there's like a small group of people. I saw Ray Higdon post about this. If you despise people that are wealthy, you'll never become wealthy, right? There's people out there that would rather be a victim than a victor in their lives. But what all of us know is the more money you have, the more money you can give, the bigger impact that you can make. And so we strive every day. And so often people get beat up in the process and they count themselves out. They go through a money problem. They go into debt. Like how many of us have been in debt? Right? Yeah. Like they go through all of these pieces and they start to count themselves out. And they're like, I'm going to go back to what's safe. But when you are heart-centered, you decide that you're going to work through those challenges. You're going to move through those. You're going to adjust course. And you're willing to be in the trenches longer because you know how you can serve people. Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
No. Yeah, I was going to say your
book. I'm going, okay, what book are you about to show us? Because
no.
The Second Mountain by Dave Brooks.
Yeah,
there you go.
Oh, there we go. All right. That's true. That's good. But no, you're spot on. And what I was going to actually say is the framework. I had to think about it for a moment. That's what happens when we. But when you talk about debt, we talked about that right before we came on the show. Quite honestly, most very successful people I know have a ton of debt. It's how we frame debt that really matters. So debt as in I'm drowning, I can never get out of it, I don't know what to do with it. And then there's good debt meaning that I'm leveraging things, I'm expanding because
Scaling
of
my
this and that.
business.
Yeah, exactly. Your business, lines of credit, things of that nature. Investments, even, because sometimes you use, income and to put it into investments to build more income and opportunities. So yeah, without a doubt, even education with each and every one of us, everything that we do, we wouldn't even be in the space of coaching if we didn't personally invest a ton of money and time into other coaches
Yes.
that have actually helped level us up in life.
Yeah.
And so for those that are just kind of popping in, I just wanted to throw that back up there again. We're talking about heart set, right? As being kind of this compass guiding you on your personal journey. And so I want to kind of just layer in some exercises along the way, right? Because sometimes we don't have like these takeaways on the show. And one of my favorite pro journal advocates is right here. Miss Tina Torres, right? Talks a lot about journaling when it comes to gratitude and other things. And isn't it true? Can we all agree, like, unless you write it down, it really doesn't become reality? Is that true? I mean,
Psychologically.
oh, you got it right there. All right,
Good plug. Good plug.
good plug. Yeah.
Psychologically, it triggers something in your brain when you're physically writing it in your handwriting. So I know a lot of people do gratitude like typing or, texting or whatever, but actually physically writing it out in a journal with your own handwriting physically in your head, it triggers something that says, because your brain doesn't know what's reality. And
Right.
you got to tell it what you want it to know. You tell it that you're healthy and thriving and
Exactly.
increasing your income and all that kind of stuff. And then it goes, oh, well, here we are. We're millionaires.
Right. So if we like break down just some of the fundamentals of heart set, like we said, like let's just start with even just one piece, something as simple as core values.
Yeah.
One of the things that we say is like the best thing you could do if you just define core value, a core value is something that is non-negotiable in your life. So just think about that for a moment. Like sit down and when you start listing what are the things that are absolutely non-negotiable.
Integrity.
What was it?
Integrity.
Yeah, integrity, absolutely. Faith,
Yeah.
Family, like
family,
protecting my
absolutely.
family values, I will do at all costs.
There you go. Mama bear kicks it.
You will.
She's pregnant, right? It might be the pregnancy hormones. I don't know.
She even had the face, by the way. And for those that don't know, that are kind of just chiming in, Christina is pregnant and due in February, right? And so she
Yes.
even had that face, like family at
What?
all costs. I mean, kind of leaned
I will
in on it.
protect
So,
my
yeah,
babies. I will
absolutely.
protect my babies. I will protect their minds. I will protect everything about them because I know the value that comes out of pouring into your children. It's a long-term investment.
Yes.
And it's not
Lifetime.
18 years either. Let me just tell you that. Oh goodness.
But like really understanding those core values, understanding and living in alignment with them, being convicted in your beliefs. There are so many, we talk about this from many years back, all the like beautiful Instagram influencers that show these perfect pictures, but they're living out like in the back of their car. They're not actually creating any sort of impact or momentum or whatever it is in the world. And so when you start to live convicted in alignment with who you are and have the courage to speak your voice, so many people let those inside thoughts and voices they internalize them and they don't share them. But like coming in this next year, one of the things that I'm focusing on is really helping people become market leaders, helping them become a leader in the business world, because there's so much crazy noise out there and there's so much vanilla content that people are not paying attention anymore. They're only paying attention to the people that are willing to have a different opinion, the willing to stand on that hill, the one that they're willing to die on. I remember when we left Canada and how opinionated, weird, that I was about all of the things that were going on. Yeah, I know, it's so bizarre, isn't it? And Ryan said to me, I remember standing in the kitchen and he goes, is this the hill that you're willing to die on? And I said, 100%. This is the
Mm.
hill that I'm willing to die on, the one
And
that I'm
he
willing to
says,
live.
"Prove it."
He's like,
Wow.
woo-hoo. But you know, that
What a
has served
perspective,
us
though.
so.
What a perspective. Exactly.
Yeah, because you know, it's something that you're just giving an opinion. And by the way, I did post a story yesterday that I deleted after a couple of hours because I was like, oh, I feel like I was trying to prove a point, and then I was like, oh, that might be coming from a place of trauma. I recognized it a couple of hours later that, hey, I might be trying to prove a point over here, and it might actually do more harm than good to my
Wow.
brand, because maybe I know that was a bit of a painful
That's
learning
growth,
lesson.
though, right? That's
A bit of
that's
a painful
growth. That's
lesson.
taking, yeah, that's
But it was
taking
realizing I could
mindset
offend
and 100%
people,
action. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
could hurt people in the process. Whereas,
Mm.
you know what's done is done. Everything is, done for a reason. And we've lived out the past 3 years the way that we truly believed. And that's really all that matters. I'm not here to prove a point to anybody else, but to be an example. That's what heart set alignment becomes, is becoming an example and living the
Okay.
life. You don't have to beak off about anything. You just have to be the example, and your example is enough.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
just like Jesus, right? Like when he
Just
was
like Jesus.
when he was
Exactly.
doing
If we want
everything
to break
for
it right
everyone,
down.
it's like he had hate mail, he had haters. You
Yes.
know, who are you to
Yeah.
do all of this, and who are you to do this? And he had the devil on him for 40 days and 40 nights. So, but then look what he did for everybody.
Yeah.
Just his-
Absolutely. And
although he knew his purpose,
but
we're still trying to find our purpose. He kind of knew
yeah,
his
some of us still are, but Christina, when you mentioned that, it was almost as if you were reading my notes. So I love that. Because sometimes that's what
Share your
happens
notes
here.
with her and not with Starr and I.
Well, always, but it was just very timely, perfect segue into the fact that, like, in the heart set journey, authenticity isn't just a choice, it's a cornerstone. I mean, you can read the rest of it, but I just want to kind of pause there for a moment. You're right. The coaches of the past, the entrepreneurs of the past, they were the ones that had the beautiful branding, and those, the visual branding, those that were posing by Lamborghinis. Again, I talk about the Lambo movement, right? And all these things. But that's what attracts people. People go online, they look at TikTok, they look at Instagram, and when someone says, I made $1 million this month, it's immediately like, buy my course for $99, and I'll show you exactly why you're part of the reason why I just made $1 million last month, right? Well, but anyways, that's kind of besides the point. But without real value,
Make $1 million this month.
yeah, but without real value. And so I believe the best way to connect with your target market, your target audience, the people that you absolutely resonate with and that you want to serve in a big way, it's going to be authenticity. It's actually putting it out there. And Chris, and we all do this, I think, very effectively. But Christina, I'm going to use you as an example because of all of the things that you've done, right? Major adversity, people kind of, going, oh my gosh, you moved from Canada to, as far as you could get south, and, at least here. And you've made these choices, and look at the impact that you're having on your, and they didn't just say impact. Look at the negative impact you're putting on your family. Look at this, look at that.
Absolutely.
You had a lot of haters.
Danger.
But with that being said, even with all the hate, which is really very minute, that's why we have to drown those things out and focus on the positive. Look at the people, because I've read some of your comments, from your people before.
Oh,
and
God,
it's like,
don't do that.
yeah, I love it. Sometimes it's entertaining when I'm really bored. No, just kidding. I'm just joking. But how many people are like, oh, well, how did you do that? Oh, well,
Yeah.
what was your first step? What
Yeah.
did you do to make that happen? And what are safe places to live? And I've read it all. And so that in itself is authenticity. And so I just wanted to kind of mention that.
And I want to, if it's okay, I want to add to that, because I think it takes a little bit of confidence, like to be able to put yourself out there as somebody that is a leader. And that's, again, truly what it's going to take in the next year
Yes.
to build a business and stand out. And it took me, I'm going to be real blunt, it took me a couple of years to get my head out of my butt and stop like looking at everybody else, right? Instead of consuming content, I started studying it. Instead of looking at my competition and being like, man, they're so good at that, I'm like, what could I do better? And so there's this moment in time that you're like, wait a second, I am somebody of value and of service, and I truly care. My intention behind what I do is one that is heart-centered. Instead of looking left or looking right for acceptance, I'm just going to start creating. I'm not going to go out there and tell everybody what I'm going to do and the accomplishments I'm going to have next year. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be silent behind the scenes and create something that I'm truly proud of, that is significant, and call in the people that I want to work with, because I know I can make a difference in their lives. I don't care what anybody else does. I don't care what their judgment is. I don't care what their thoughts are. This is who I am, and this is how I'm going to show up. And I'm telling you, the instant that light switch turns on, everything changes. Everything.
Wow. I love it. And that concludes today's show.
So many people are scrolling and watching their competition and like, I am not capable of doing that. And it's actually a distraction for them to keep going forward and actually doing the things.
The imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
You start gauging yourself against the, whoever it is that you idolize, or that
tell people that all the time, right? Like we have coaches tell people imposter syndrome. Don't listen. There's only the highlight reels, but then you're in bed going, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
I can get caught up in all of that stuff too, right? Like, Robert, I could totally get caught up in all the hate and all the stuff in the comments, right?
It's easy, right? And it probably has happened to you at some point in time, right?
It took me, when it first happened, when I first had a video go viral and there was so much hate from difference of opinions, from people that were not like-minded, for people that were stuck in their victim mindset, which there are a heck of a lot more out there, by the way, than people that are foraging through in the trenches, building something of significance. It took me a good 4 to 6 weeks of counseling. Miss Jenny Potter helped me, a bunch of people, right? That I was like, I need to work through this or I will not succeed. And by the way, that is the freaking hard work. That's the hard work that most people are not willing to do. I cried it out. I was like, I don't want is my family in danger? Have I been completely irresponsible with my life? I can't believe that this is happening. You start questioning the validity of what you're doing. And am I actually hurting people? And what I will tell you in the process is, once you let go of all of that and you start to use those comments as something to reflect upon, as something to be like, hey, I even said to them, okay, I'll give you an example. A couple of days ago, I had this girl and she was really upset. And she's like, all of the indigenous scholars are laughing at your privilege because you've come from this country. You've stolen our land. You've done all this. And I'm like, woo, okay. And so I said to Ryan, how could I have changed my message that would have landed better with her, that she would come from I didn't steal your land. How many generations do I have to pay for just because of the color of my skin or where I come from? Racism is alive and well, my friends. And I'm like, I don't stand for that. That's not who I am at my core. And so I said, how could I have communicated this message in a way that was more respectful or more well received and wouldn't receive that kind of hate? Or do we swat it aside and be like, there's nothing I could do to appease this person, right?
Really nothing that you can do. Now,
nothing.
Obviously, as a side note, maybe there's some engaging conversations that you can have one-on-one or whatever. But, it's interesting. Mindset as a whole, just mindset, if there's people that are always going to be looking for the negative in any way, right? And that's exactly what happened in that, situation that you're mentioning. The positive twist is this, I look at it as if, just even on the surface, even if I didn't know you, just from what I saw in some of your posts, I look at it more like, wow, you're actually like a kind of a brand ambassador to that, because this is what it's doing. In my opinion, there's a negative stigma around the area that you're in, just in general, right?
Immigration, all that kind of stuff, right? It's really a difficult topic.
And you can apply this to all kinds of things that are happening in the United States or anywhere in the world.
Sure.
But I look at it like you're sharing so many positive aspects of what this transition did for you and your family and your life, that there should be so many people empowered by your content and in your story, quite frankly.
It's a really delicate dance. And I will tell you, education is the way forward, and having bigger conversations. I am not willing to negotiate with terrorists. Okay. I'm not willing to negotiate with people that are out to attack me and are out to bury me. I'm not willing to do that. But I did have a young gentleman do a video response to my video. And so I listened to this and he said, I'm not throwing any hate. I think, what you and your family are doing is amazing. And we all have the right to live in different areas and do all that. But he's like, you do have to understand the negative impacts. And, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And I commented on his video and I said, thank you so much for your perspective and how you respectfully shared it. Will you please reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram and book a call with me? I would love to have a conversation. I'd love to learn more about your viewpoint because we're willing to have this exchange that is respectful and kind and loving, not one that is attacking with hate. And I think the world needs to take that message and expand upon it in this heart-centered space because everybody is so easily triggered. They have their opinions. They have the things that they are so angry about, right? The traumas that they've been through. But really, we're only responsible for our own lives, healing our own traumas and how we show up in this world. And intention is everything. So if I can get, whether he likes it or not, long term, we all have a right to live the way that we want to. But if I can gain some perspective and understand more, maybe it's giving back to my community. We give back to our community. He doesn't know who we are personally and how we give. He doesn't know that my goal is to make this much money so I can donate $100,000 to my daughter's school. He doesn't understand those pieces, right?
There's so much more. Yeah.
When you actually take the time, and this can be scary, by the way, to take the time to have conversations with people that do not agree with you. But I'm telling you, the growth that you will do in the process when you find the right people to have the conversations with, how you can learn, how you can educate yourself and become more because of those conversations. It's worth seeking them out with the right people.
Oh, absolutely. And like you just said, it's a reflection. It's both ways. Not only are you educating them on some things that they may not have thought about, but then there's a reflection of, their feedback. And feedback can be grueling at times, right?
Well, it can be painful sometimes because maybe there is a spot that is not quite right.
Absolutely. And I say in any journey of self-discovery, seek feedback. As hard as it is, it will help you grow in so many ways. The other little exercise I'll just throw out there, because again, we're going to stick on kind of journaling. I love all these little things. When we think of passion, just write the word passion up there. It seems so simple just to say the word passion. What are you passionate about? And people immediately gravitate to something that they're already doing, something, a hobby, something that they're already interested in. But Starr, again, you alluded to it without even knowing. In the very beginning, you mentioned what you wanted to do in 2024, right? For
with
children,
connecting
with their parents. Right. So passion, I think one of the best things you can do is when you think of the word passion, think of something that interests you, that you've always been maybe connected with or want to be connected with.
Or
and
that
then
impacted you.
Yeah. And then put that as kind of this passion goal, explore it over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And then journal that experience. And then you'll find out if it's something that you absolutely are connected with and you want to pursue, or, maybe it's just an experience that you learned along the way. So.
Yeah, you've got to be willing to put yourself out there. You've got to be willing to move forward in a way that, if you're comparing yourself to average, you're losing, right? If you're sitting and you're comparing, for example, right, if you were putting out Facebook ads and you're like, well, the average conversion rate is, and you're not seeking a higher conversion rate, that's a silly example. But if you're constantly comparing yourself to average around you, you're never going to build something of significance.
Yeah, that is so true.
What's the average? But everybody has an opinion. I was just watching an interview the other day with Jennifer Lopez, and she was saying that she doesn't read her comments or any of the stuff on social media because she gets, so much hate. Why did you get married so quickly? And she has all these, she's like, I'm addicted to love. I want to fall in love and fall in love as much as you can. And everybody has their opinions. And she's like, I don't ever watch my interviews or read any of the comments. And I'm like, you know what? I don't watch any of my interviews either because, mama.
Speaking of heart set.
Right. And so I don't watch any of my interviews either. Like Tony would be listening. I'm like, oh my God, turn it off. He's like, why? I'm like, hear my voice. He's like,
it's good though. You can really learn, even watching, our podcast. Sometimes, you listen to it afterwards and you're like, oh my gosh, what in the world did I just say? Or, or, but, but then other
Why I
times,
don't watch it, because I probably say a lot of stuff.
right? But then other times, it just allows you to grow as well.
Mhm.
And then sometimes you're like, wow, that was hot. Like, I need to write that down. I don't even know. That just kind of came off the cuff. One other thing I'm just going to throw out there is I love this. And so I kind of pulled this out of the journal that I have as well. Embracing heart set isn't about finding perfection. It's about finding alignment. So kind of just focus on that alignment side. The beauty lies in imperfect, genuine, and heartfelt journey of self-discovery, where every twist and turn shapes our authentic personal brand. I love that, and just to kind of reflect about on that, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess, because most entrepreneurs are, especially in the coaching space, most have some perfection.
Mhm.
And that typically is what held me back for so long. And
Oh,
it,
same
so
here.
so whether you're in business or you're just kind of figuring these things out and figuring out what your passion and purpose is in life, don't seek perfection. Do not seek perfection, because it will
No.
hold you back from this journey. And so do you?
So many.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you want to
Oh,
talk about that for a minute? Who's
I
got
mean, there's a lot of coaches that just aren't making money because they are perfectionists. Like, they will
Yeah.
literally take a whole year or two to build out their programs, record them, and it's like, well, you didn't even see if the market is interested in this product, but you're spending so much time
that was me in the
perfecting
beginning.
this.
Yeah.
And for me, I just came out here. I'm selling this, I'm selling that. But I do remember an instance where I was selling my first mastermind, and I did not launch the mastermind because of a name. Like, I could not think of a name for my mastermind. And I held back on making money for a good 2 months due to a name. And I still ended up using the first name that I came up with because I still couldn't think of a name for this program. But yeah, I mean, honestly, you have to get your stuff out there, get your product, get your brand, get your services out there. As you start to work with your clients, you're going to improve your processes, you're going to improve the things inside of your container or whatever it is that you're selling, right? But that's
Yeah.
going to come with you interacting with your clients or your customers and getting that feedback.
Yeah.
I was in the back of the room one time with a bunch of 8-figure earners, and I was their MC, and they were pushing out a huge $45,000 package at the front of the room. And I'm sitting there looking, and they're going over their value stack, and I'm looking at it, and I'm sitting next to, one of the main people, and she's like, well, I guess we got to start putting this package together. And I looked at her, I was like, what?
Yeah.
We don't have none of this stuff together. We just wanted to make sure it could sell. And I was like, what?
Yeah. So true.
Well,
I've done that, by the way, especially early on, and Kelly can testify to this. By the way, I do want to flash that back up there, because even though she's kind of just putting that out there and resonating when you start, like, it's true, right? It's why Kelly's really good at what she does in the corporate world as well, where she's a controller, she deals with finances, she's an accountant, and so for her, perfection is like something that has to happen in that industry. And so she's so kind of accustomed
Can't
to
be
that,
like, oh, it's 6 or 7, one of the two.
right?
Let's just use
That anything outside of that, whether it's working on the house or anything, she does a fantastic job at everything she does. I mean that. It's not just for bonus points, but anyways,
They can buy you some flowers, Kelly.
but she's right. She's such a perfectionist that it kind of holds her back, and there's no speed kind of involved in what that is. Meanwhile, I'm like, let's just throw paint on this thing and get it done. Like,
Let's just throw a landing page.
yeah, let's
we
just
can-
solve the problem.
Yeah.
we can fix it later, but like, let's get through this now. But anyways, that's why we complement each other. But that is so true. When both of you were talking, but Tina, this in book writing, so many people are hung up on like the book cover and the title and all this, like, and that it's the same thing with branding or anything else. It's that visual aspect, and they sit there and they're so stuck that they forget about the content, and they forget about the reader
I always
that's
tell
going
them,
to be attracted to that content.
outline it and start writing. Don't go in there and edit. Don't do anything. Don't go back and reread. Just all over I always tell them, throw up all over the paper. I don't care what it says, how it looks, how it reads.
Yeah.
That's where the editing comes in, right?
Yes.
But they get stuck. And in fact, I had a client, For 4 years throughout COVID, she was trying to push out a course, and still to this day has changed this course probably 8 or 9 times because she
That's not how it
Not
works.
good.
put the entire course together, make it look perfect, and
That was, isn't that not like the biggest lesson? Like I remember,
It
you
is
know,
such a lesson.
having sleepless nights over what the hell I was going to name my brand. And really what it comes down to is you learn as you go. You have to put something out there
Yeah.
so that you see what works and what doesn't work and how you can evolve it. And it's a constant evolution. You're never stopping to evolve. Like
Exactly.
it's always evolving. And that's what I wanted to say, you know, when Robert was talking about alignment, is that as you grow as a human being, your alignment changes, and there will be things that
It
fall.
evolves.
There will things that will, you know, fall out to the side that are like, this is no longer in alignment with me because I'm now a new human. My goal is to be like a new human every single year, a different level of growth every single year. And so these things will fall off. And sometimes people will hang on to them for dear life, and they're still not working because they're not operating at their highest power. And
Well,
you know,
wow.
I think that it's so important to think about the long-term vision of your company. This week, I had the pleasure of interviewing someone for my podcast, and I said, you know, how did you start $100 million business, right? And so many people are like, what? Like, I can't even comprehend that. This woman started with a solution. She started with a hair care product that she created herself that she had time and time again results with. She started with a $500 budget, $500. She did all the packaging. She printed the labels. She sold one product at a time, right? She had a vision because she knew she could help people. 10 years later, she sold that company for $100 million, right? It was the 10 years. And what we talked about was all the failures in the process, all of the things that she had to go through, all like the manufacturing, she's like, I've just had way more headaches than most people.
Yeah.
And when you embrace those pieces, when you embrace those failures, okay, next, okay, that didn't work, next, that didn't work, next. When you start to embrace that and evolve through those mistakes, and like we were talking about before, you know, evaluating when you make the mistakes or why you're making them, or, you know, is this something that I'm being triggered by, or is this something that I need to work through and learn a new skill set? By the way, technology just makes me want to stab my eye with a fork. So like when I've got to take my business to the next level and scale it, what do I need to learn, and what do I actually need to move through? I was talking to our friend Kimberly Olson, who many of you guys know, and we were talking about her goal.
Texted me at the moment. I literally just looked down, and you just said Kimberly Olsen. I just looked down, and she's texting me.
I'm telling you. And so we had this conversation a couple of days ago, and she's like, so this year I'm focusing on this, and this is what I'm putting in place. It's going to take her a whole year, but she gets the long-term vision. She gets it. She's going to go through the ups and the downs. She's not going to beat herself up about being not as far ahead or not making the money right now. She's like, this is the investment that I need to make. I need to take this chunk of money. I need to create this system if I want to be here and I want to keep my sanity and I want to spend time with my family. So I'm willing to take the next year, sacrifice the next year. How many people are willing to sacrifice a year of their life to build something of significance in alignment with their heart set?
Yeah.
And if you could take that out and realize the time is going to pass anyways, you might as well dig in and learn the work. You might as well hire the right people. You might as well spend the money, because at the end of your life, what you've created is something you can be really damn proud of.
Yeah,
right?
that's what that means.
College for 4 or 5 years, and
Yeah, exactly.
missed it all. Put $200,000 in debt, getting loans. You know, going to school full time, working part time, taking that risk so you can potentially get a job when you graduate.
Yeah.
And get a piece of paper.
It is all risk, and like you
Most
said,
of the time they don't work with what they have.
and at the end of the day, since we never gain time back, then like make it count, right? Continue to learn and educate, and as we keep saying, evolve along the way. You had mentioned, and I know I lost kind of the exact thought I wanted to put on it, but I jot down these little notes now, so I don't forget. When you said, Christina, something about working on a course and making it like so perfect, it took forever. One thing that I do find in regards to that, and so even when we're talking about alignment, speed, getting something that's aligned in, within your purpose and your audience's purpose, as quick as possible, even if it's comes out in pieces and chunks and you're constantly kind of feeding the thought process, or, maybe you can even include them in part of this evolution. Most of us pivot and grow our business because of that constant feedback or
Yeah.
things that we're learning with our clients. But back to the course, I do want to mention that in perfectionism, a lot of times what happens is we create a product and it becomes our baby, because the longer you nurture this process, it becomes like something that you never want to let go of. And the real problem with that is the fact that you're so in love with it, you'll never give up on that thought. You'll never be coachable enough to move past it and try something different, because you're hanging on forever. And that in itself, by the way, is what makes most entrepreneurs fail, because they hang on so long, they're not willing to change or pivot in any way, and they die with potentially a great skill set or something that would change the world, but they just kind of get buried with it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think done is better than perfect.
Definitely.
And you evolve through that. You learn in the process, right? If you don't actually do, you never get the result. Most people self-sabotage and they talk themselves out of it. But when you have self-doubt, the only remedy is action. And you may fall flat on your face. Like you may, right? And by the way, this is not for every career, right? Like when we think of your wife, Kelly, who has to be a perfectionist, what she does, or a surgeon or a pilot, like those are people that should be really good at their jobs and they should be perfectionists. Right? But when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's a totally different mentality. And once you embrace that mentality of failing forward and realizing, like, I remember the first time I put together my mastermind, I charged very little. And it was because I was learning in the process. I was learning what people needed and what they needed to grow. And if I was going to teach them this and they didn't apply it, then what would it matter? I remember even Ray Higdon having that conversation saying, for 10 years, I've taught people how to build network marketing. But I realized they will not do the work if they don't have the mindset. So I need to shift into mindset work.
Yes.
Right? After all of that time, I had to align. I had to reevaluate. I had to adjust course. And that's exactly what's going on in the marketplace right now, is that we have to adjust course and adapt to what people need right now, not what they needed 5 years ago, not what they needed 3 years ago, but what do they need and how can we stay in alignment with them in the process?
Yeah.
Wow. That is so true. That is so true. And I know we're going to be wrapping up in just a few minutes, but that's why we talk about some of these things on the show, right? Because of the fact that, most people dive into a product or a service because they want to make money. I mean, that's the objective. They just want to make money, and they fall in love with a product or a service, which isn't a problem if that's part of your purpose and you're aligned with that.
Yeah.
However, do this hard work on the front end. Do the self-discovery. Figure out who you are. The mindset is huge. Like just overcoming your limiting beliefs is one of the number one things that you could do. And then what we're talking about today is like heart set. And there's so much. There's going to be a deep dive tomorrow. Starr, I've got you coming on, right? We're going to just give some testimonies. And ladies, I've got something in the future for you, so don't think that I didn't invite you for that. But anyways, but really though, like heart set in itself, mindset, heart set, knowing why you want to do something, who do you want to serve, all those things are so important, way before skill set. And now you can do some of these things in parallel with each other, but just don't make skill set in absence of mindset and heart set. That's the last advice I could give regarding that, because most people do that and they will continuously fail over and over and over again. And you'll start seeing that trend. You see it in network marketing all the time. They jump from company to product, service over and over and over with the same results, thinking that it's the products and services, but in reality, it's actually them. Exactly.
Ouch.
And I also want to add too, it's not just about the money. Yes, we're business owners because we're all excited about money. But I do want to caution you, bring your products to market, stop sitting on them. But I also don't want people out there, because there's coaches who will they only sell for the money. They only sell for their popularity. And it's like, I'm going to create a new product, because I think, Tina, you talked about this. They came out with a solution, right, for $45,000, but they knew what that solution would be. They just had to put the details. But there are people who will go out there and just sell anything and literally like not say what's behind it, not what the focus is, not know what they're going to do, just to collect money from people. And we don't want you doing that.
No.
Absolutely.
No. And I've seen it. I've seen people
Yeah,
do
it's
that
just mistakes.
over and over and over again. And like Robert said in the beginning, right? Oh, I made $1 million last month because you bought this course. Right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't because they actually
what people are
did anything
attracted
of
to.
significance or made an impact or like helped other people make an impact. It's because they're really good at marketing and sales. And I've had so many people come to me and be like, oh my gosh, I bought this affiliate marketing course. I'm gonna make millions in affiliate marketing. I'm like, who are you selling to?
Exactly. Exactly. You know, that's, by the way, that's one of the first questions I ask when a network marketer comes to me for some coaching. You know, they immediately talk, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing a travel club, I'm doing a weight loss product, whatever it may be. And all those are good things, right? We've been involved in those things as well. But they immediately talk about it. I'm like, okay, so excellent. So tell me why, like, why does that resonate with you? And then there's so many that just go, well, I heard that like this person that invited this person that invited me, you know, they're making $1 million a month, you know, and you're like,
And how many followers do you have? 58.
what's that?
You're like, and how many followers do you have? 58.
Yeah. And even that,
That's
hey,
not really.
58 won't be bad if all 58 are mastermind clients and
Exactly.
they're absolutely
Amen.
in alignment with one another.
Amen.
But that's true.
5 of them are your family and friends.
Yeah, exactly. I did have a little like download that will help some people kind of navigate through this other exercises. It doesn't work though here in StreamYard. We tried it earlier.
Oh, just put it in the comments when you get off.
So what I'm gonna do, I'll put it in there. You guys can download the PDF, and it's just some nice little exercises and kind of helps you kind of guide through that process. And by the way, we still have some amazing things coming up in 2024. Just like all of you, we've got a lot going on with just business, with end of year, with holidays. You know, some people have excuses like they're going to have a baby, they're going to have a baby soon, and all these other little things. But with that being said, we really want to not just talk about these things, but really help hands-on, like take you to that next level. And so please, you know, continue to follow us along the way. It's every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow, like, share on Facebook, Uncensored Entrepreneurs, and also across social media. You can pretty much find us just by looking or hashtagging Uncensored Entrepreneurs. But other than that, any other closing thoughts? You're good?
We're like, nope.
We appreciate it. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.